Hello. Okay, good afternoon. I am Baolu from Intel, and I'm basically working on the Linux community, and I'm a developer. And today I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you some of the issues that I've encountered previously, and I'm still working on solving them. This is what I'm going to talk about. This is the agenda today. First, a brief intro, and the second will be followed by device classification in security environment, and the third is the vulnerabilities that we have discovered and fixed. It's all relevant with GNA and some thoughts to share, and our to-do list, and finally a conclusion and some references. First, before this session, I'd like to have a statement. All these vulnerabilities discovered in the slides is not specified to one or several silicon vendor or a platform, so I'm not talking about Intel specific loopholes and vulnerabilities. We're still helping the communities to fix all these vulnerabilities. All these platforms will benefit from our work. And before all of these, I'd like to talk about a tiny story. In around 1.8 thousand years ago, by the end of Eastern Han Dynasty, we had this main battle determining the fate of the Northern China Guandu battle. Cao Cao defeated Yuan Shao, a major warlord, and turning on a new chapter of the history. And because one of the advisors of Yuan Shao, main advisor Mr. Xu Yu, betrayed Yuan Shao and gave gists and vital information to Cao Cao, and Cao Cao burned all the wagons of Yuan Shao in Wuchao, and then he defeated Yuan Shao. And so this is what we have learned. Information security is so important. This is the gist we have drawn from that 1.8 thousand years ago battle. And unfortunately till today, after all this we have learned, still we have problems of information security. We still face multiple challenges, and modern computers and devices, we have a DMA access, and that leads to some malicious devices that they want to have access to your memories and leak your information and steal your services. So this is DMA attack. DMA attack is basically a long discussed topic. Later we'll tell you why we're still focusing on these parts. We're still focusing on this issue, and all the silicon vendors, including silicon platforms, they are providing their own IOM mechanism to protect our device against DMA attack. So with IOM and U, are we totally risk-free? No. Still, we have a lot to do. Before sharing, this is basic concepts. First, what are the devices can be trusted, and what are the devices that we cannot trust? Well, the trustworthy device will follow the order of our drivers, and all the DMA behaviors are limited in the buffer, and they will not access other device that out of the buffer. And if the drivers are not allowing the device to do DMA, then they will not do it. And if DMA fail, and if it generates an issue, they will report following the same routine to the driver. So these are trustworthy device. This is what we call trusted device. And the untrusted device are the device that's not equipped with these features. So for the external or third-party device, how much can we trust it? And that must be different from the device that's used internally. So when we are discussed about this, the performance and security of information is different. Sometimes you have to sacrifice part of the security to improve its performance, and sometimes vice versa. You have to be more secure at the stake of performance. So for the trustworthy device, we have to optimize the efficiency of data transmission, and for the untrustworthy device, we have to fend it off any risks. So after all this information has been presented, how can we classify these devices? Linux kernel and Linux communities, they have their own classification for devices. So they think that all the devices are trustworthy, and we think that some of the devices might cause security issues. We have two categories for them. One, trusted device, secure device. And generally speaking, if this is for your vendor or we put it in the cabinet, then it's trustworthy. And if we do hot plug to it, or if we have a PCIe to it, FireWire for example, then we think it's untrustworthy, not trustworthy. Then there's a joke in the community: if your device is to be attacked, then we have to open your cabinet manually with a bolt, and if they have that chance to open the cabinet, they might as well smash it with a hammer. So we would believe that if we put the device internally into a cabinet, it will be very safe and it's trustworthy. So we submit the patch 5.0 Linux kernel. We have a portal, we have interface for PCIe slots. Then we will report on all the untrustworthy device from internally, and we will run the tests, see the device whether it's trustworthy or not. For these untrustworthy device, we will identify it, and also we will have a per device testing and screening, and finally the trusted and non-trustworthy device will have to be determined by the customers, see which are the safe and secure devices and which are not. So these are what we're working on. And first vulnerabilities, IOMU is designed to protect the device, fend it off DMA attack. So in fact, I'm citing a PhD research and thesis from Cambridge University, and he discovered that the FreeBSD, macOS, on these platforms, only macOS can actually fend off all the attacks, and not for the other platforms. And for Windows, for the latest version, enterprise version Windows, You have to look through relevant documents to do this. If you're using 3BSD and 14.04 and 16.04 and Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7.1, these are the IOMAU was switched off by default, and in 2018 we have run a research. If we find an untrustworthy device in the system, we will turn on the IOMAU for screening manually, and this is a prevention. And second vulnerability, ATS. If you are familiar with ATI VX, and this is called Address Translation Service. This is a feature defined by PCIe, and if we support ATS, we will submit a request to IOMAU. We'll send a application ATS translation request to IOMAU. They will bypass the device, used the translated address for DMA. So IOMAU, upon seeing this translation request using the translated address, they will bypass this request automatically, so that improve the efficiency of DMA. So this is pre-translated, not translated real time. So also that means if you're a malicious device and you support ATS as a disguise, then you have access to any memory in the system, then you're a privileged device, actually. So this is a potential risks. And we have short-term and long-term solutions. For short-term solution for untrusted device, we will always disable ATS. We've done this part, and currently we have already released it in version 5.1, and for long-term solution we will secure ATS support and improve the data efficiency. And later we have PCIe ECM try to solve this problem. And for bounce page, this is the third vulnerability. We have IOMAU window. It is pretty similar to DBU MMU. It's cutting a virtual space into different pages. Each page might be larger than 4K. So one page is the smallest units, and all this device can visit any given byte of one page. And the blue part is the driver buffer assigned to the system, and each device have access to the whole page. And the red part are not meant for the device accessing, but it was exposed in the memory, and then all the data and code in the memory is not safe any longer. You have the risk of information leakage from here, and this is our solution. In the upper graph, the device will directly visit this buffer, and in our solution we add the bounce page, so the device visit not the final buffer, but the bounce page to the right. So I don't know about your buffer mechanism, but the blue buffer is different from the red buffer. So all the device C are the pages to the right. That includes the blue parts, the driver buffer. The green parts. So basically, the bounce page are not yet realistic, and we're still testing it. And if we're releasing version 5, then we will do wireline, and it will be almost done. And we're trying to solve these problems by other means. So we're using bounce buffers for software. Then for hardware, we are also finding ways, finding paths. And ROI is pretty low, and the overhead, if you're using bounce page, the overhead is too high, and we don't have a formal proposal yet. We're still considering we're still weighing among possible solutions. And the fourth vulnerability is strict mode. If you're not an expert of IOMMU, then you probably don't know about it, but it's pretty simple actually. So we're doing DMA. We have two parts up there. DMA starts. The first part includes the several parts. For example, map buffer, DMA transfer, and then buffer on map, IOTLB, invalidation, and DNA and currently all these devices, the buffer on map and IOTLB invalidation can only have one at the same time. Only one at a time. And we have this proposal. Then they propose that we shift the red part and break it down to different tasks. And we have task queue, and we will make the DMA like this. First buffer map, DMA transfer, and then DNA end. The task queue will focus on the implementation. It's like a lazy mode. That's what we call it. So now the lazy mode is not done simultaneously. So there's one issue. That means in a very long window, your device can still have access to the internal location, and this location probably has been transferred to other device by kernel, and here is a potential risk threats. So your DMA is now finished, but your map still enable the cache, and your device can still visit the cache, and the kernel memory allocation system probably has already assigned this memory to other device. So for untrusted service, we will always use the strict mode. We always apply the strict mode. That means we're using taking the upper path and guarantee that it's secure. So we will divide it into two groups, trusted device and untrusted device. We're doing this to guarantee the maximum security.
And this was done in April of 1991 and has been pended. So we have discussed 4 security loopholes and how to solve it. Yes, many people are doing this research on its similarity with the DMA attack. The security issues. It's not just these 4 types of security issues. We have more issues than that. I am developing IMU. How can we just jump out of the box IMU and so if the time window, when the IMU window is not enabled, when the structure is not initialized, it cannot be upgraded. But each platform has its own procedures to deal with it. In VTD, we have the protective memory region. It ensures that when the system is booted and until the memory is enabled, the internal memory is kept secure. Many of the drivers, when the drivers encounter an unrecoverable error, it will trigger unrecoverable errors because they think the device is trusted. When the device acts abnormally, they think the system is breaking. There's an issue with the system. So this put the system into an unpredictable status. We don't think this is a good method. So if you reboot a malicious device, if you encounter the issues, how can we deal with it? So you need to improve the robustness of the driver. So the third one being the OS. The Envoy will report errors. Yes. But in current Linux, all the wrong messages were kept in D messages or in colon knob. We don't have this automatic mechanism to tell that the driver that to make it respond. Yeah, is it to stop the device or function reset the function? There's a gap here. So the last issue being that in PCIe back, so how do software identify devices? So it reads its manufacturer and the device ID. When the vendor and device ID is publicly available on the internet, for example, the device is made by one specific manufacturer, so it provides the convenience for this malicious attacker. It can copy any type of the device and to attack it. So I have mentioned a doctor from university in FDA. He writes the code and he just made the malicious devices, and he has seen a lot of issues with these malicious ones. Suppose you are the developers and you will develop all types of device driver. When you are writing component log, do not use panic. For example, if then, this is not very good because you just suppose this device is trusted, but maybe it's not. It's untrusted. So suppose it's untrusted one. So avoid using panic. You can use if warm on. Yes, then you can log all this information in the kernel log and go down. And the third one is when you are using the buffer. We use the page-aligned buffer so as to bypass the bounce-back buffer mechanism. And when you are doing the DMA, please specify the correct DMA direction, and is it from the kernel to memory or from the memory to the device? So in conclusion, I think the silicon and the platform, they provide very good technologies to protect the system against DMA attacks. So current OS, they relax the control of DMA. So why? Because they think the device is trusted. They are more focused on the improving the data transmission efficiency. So how can we do it? We classify devices into different trust levels. Currently, we have 2 levels, but in the future, we can expand it and segment it into more levels. After we have segmented it, and for the trusted devices, we will keep optimizations for the efficient data transfer. So for those untrusted devices, we focus on its security. And another thing being that when we are designing hardware or spec, we need to pay attention to the malicious devices to prevent attack. Yes, the first one we have proposed. The second one, we are still considering it. This is the reference. Yeah, if you have any questions. Thank you. So do you have any questions? So please go ahead. So for the ATS, can you expand on it? ATS is not proposed by mine. It is proposed by Intel Lab. So I have this link here. Yes. This is. Yes, you can see this link here. Yes, I will go and check it later. Yes, I have loaded it to the internet. You can. It's made publicly available. So second question is that for the bounce page, isn't it possible in DMA and EPI level? Maybe the page is not page aligned, and in DMA core level we can protect it because in development we don't ask the drivers to do this. Most of drivers haven't done this. So we are encouraging developers to use the page-aligned buffer. So we will cite these buffers as a basis. So thank you. I have a question. IMMU. So it is used in being virtualized environment, but for physical environment, can it also be applied? Yes, it's a good question. So in community, many people proposed the idea that IMMU, it was designed to increase the protection of the IMU, but it is being more used in the virtualized environment for isolation. So I don't agree with you that the IMU's main function is to be performed in virtualized environments. It has many other functions for the protection of the CPU. Yes, you can tell from its name. That is for protection. When you are designing a device, we think it is trusted. We just focus on the optimization and efficiency. But when you encounter an untrusted device, there's a lot of more issues coming up. But I don't agree with the idea that IMO is just for virtualization. So for the macOS, in the IMMU, it's doing very well. So can Windows learn from it? And what's the advantage of it compared to Linux? I think I have cited this from other people's graduation papers. So I'm a kind of a layman. I have added this citation here, the references. This is the paper. So I think the macOS, there's a bus called the Firewire. The Firewire is proposed by Apple. It's a kind of a bus connecting external devices to the DMA. Because this platform has this function, so that's why they focus on this area, the protection of the DMA. For Windows, because the Firewire was turned into a sandbox. It was co-developed by Intel and Apple. And when the sandbox reached its 3.0 version, because they have unified this interface, because in the past we have these different interfaces. Yes, they combine the two into one thing. It's like a round-shaped. You can't tell whether it's a sandbox or it's a 0.3 version, because in the past you can tell the difference. Like the Linux is paying attention to this issue. So yes, they are focusing on fixing this issue. So thank you very much.